You got me?
All right.
All right.
I think we got it. No
Sweet. I got a
errors.
couple people on. Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. What's up? Let us know if you can hear us. Thumbs up, thumbs down. If not, we'll figure it out. Hopefully
Yeah,
we're good.
hopefully the audio sounding good.
Excellent. Cool. Well, a
Awesome.
couple of people are hopping on. Just wanted to say thanks everybody for joining. And also Sebastian, thank you for reaching out. Hey guys, what's up? Um, After the chat with Kevin last week, Sebastian hit me up and was like, hey, I would love to come on and talk about mental health, kind of keep that conversation going. I had a decent amount of people that reached out and were just expressing their gratitude for having that conversation. So I'm super pumped that Sebastian is here. He also works in wildland fire, so he's going to chat about his experiences with that mental health. And just keep that conversation going. So, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be on here. I know it's super awesome watching Kevin's episode, and I just want to keep that train rolling, just talking about mental health and all aspects about
Ooh,
it. So, yeah,
what a book.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna dive right into it. So I've been here, or I've been in Wildland for 7 seasons now. I did a couple in school. I went to the U of I and graduated from there. So, I do some short 3 month stints, in there, and then started going like 5 month seasons, longer seasons, and then working like almost full time now. So that's been fun, to get into it, and then you get to stay later, you get to do more fun pile burning, more projects like that, like that's everyone loves that. But when mental health really came into the game for me, the first couple summers they're short and they're fun, right? I don't know, I'm sure you've done some
Hmm.
short summers yourself, and short and fun, and then you get to go back to school. And so it was the first longer summer that I did, like a 5 month season or so. Like I think we got done around Halloween that year. And just that, like, I didn't realize like how much extra mental strain it would be on me to like be around, be at the station, be like in that full-time work mode going forward, because we went on to late season fires and stuff, of course. August and September are always the busiest time when all the students are gone. Yep, exactly. And so and that's what happened for me. It's just like it was my first long season. It was a hard adjustment, and my parents actually gotten divorced. Like it was in that year. I think it was like a few months earlier. They're going through this process, right? And that was really hard on me. And I didn't really realize how hard it was on me until like my crew members are like bringing it up to me. Because like everyone likes to poke
Right.
fun around the station and throw around the stupid stick and all that, and like talk smack and all that stuff. And it usually like will roll off your shoulders, right? And like it's all in good fun. But like it was becoming less and less fun for me, and I was becoming like more and more agitated, and like to the point where like I had to go sit down with like my engine boss and stuff and my supervisor and be like what is going on, man? Like we don't recognize you. Like you're just lashing out, and it's like it's not working. And I was like, oh man, like I gotta like level with them. And so I told them what's going on. I'm like, look, I'm having like some rough life at home, or like with dealing with my parents' stuff, and like this is my first long season. I'm feeling kind of tired. And they're like, look, man, like this happens to everybody. You gotta like go home and read a book, or like go fishing more, like find some ways to decompress. Like we all have long summers. And like as to your family stuff, like that sucks. We're here for you. Do you want to talk about it? Like what can we do for you? And that was like my first thing into mental health of like, well, like I can talk about this stuff with people and not like just like keep this all inside and like act like a jerk. Like you can,
Mhm.
there's people that you can talk to, and that was huge for me. And so then from there, I went on to finding Thomas Worm and Anna Martin. They do a super cool once a month group, and my wife was like, "You got to talk to somebody," and I'm like, okay, you're right. And so I found this group and I go and I talk to these guys, and it's so much fun to just sit in this group and talk to a bunch of other firefighters like who get it. Like it's also October for them. They're also tired. You don't have to banter back and forth, like everyone's exhausted and you kind of just get straight to the problems, right? Of like, I was on this fire way too long and I just lost it. I couldn't do it. Or, like people are sharing these stories and you can just get right into it. And it helped so much just going on there and like admitting what was going on and just like great to talk about it and share my feelings. And that's what really kicked off like the mental health stuff for me was like, wow, okay, I need to like take better care of myself and like not hold this in and pretend like everything's the best day of firefighting ever, like you can
Yeah.
have a bad day.
I
So
think that's huge.
yeah,
Like you just said, like I can have a bad day. Sometimes like I know for myself, sometimes
right.
just admitting that or telling myself like, man, today is not my day and that's okay. Like it almost like relieves this huge burden where you're like, yeah, everybody's human. Like we all have those crappy days and that's all right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that was huge for me. And like you don't always have to be on your game, but you do have to own that and come to the table and say, today is not my day. And if you have a good supervisor, like what I would do with my guys, like if they say that, I'm like, all right, that's fine. You're on the pump today. Like, what can I do for you? Like, let's make this day tolerable for you.
So yeah,
And then let's see how tomorrow is. You know, that's all you can do. But I just think there's a huge stigma. Like it took me that was like my third or fourth season. There's like this huge stigma about like, don't talk about stuff. Don't say that you're having a bad day. It's your best day. You need to get out there and be a great firefighter. Thinking about safety, thinking about LCES. It's a good day to be a firefighter or not. Like, it's actually kind of a hard day. And there's that stigma of like saying that. And so trying to get in that practice of like, nope, it is a bad day. And like letting the appropriate people know that
right.
you're having a hard time. Took me a while to be comfortable doing, you know,
I
it's
remember, so my first season in fire was actually back in 16. I was a short-term non-perm in dispatch, and then I went back in 2020, and then 21 was my engine season. And at that point, I mean, I was 20, 28, I guess. They're about 27, 28. And I had been around the wildfire community or scene a little bit, but going on an engine, being the only female on my engine, being older than the majority of people I was working with, like on my engine, I didn't know that it was okay to be like, dude, I'm just having a bad day. Like I always felt like I had to have this facade, and the guys were like, yeah, we're broing out, rubbing elbows, and it was very, I don't even know the word. Like I took it on myself where I was like, okay, I have to be okay. Like everybody's broing out, everybody's cool. Like we're on this assignment, and this one night, my first assignment, we were up, I don't know, Shasta, Modoc, somewhere up there, and I just like I had a meltdown. Like I just sat behind the engine and I had my cry, and I was like, I'm super stressed out already, and I'm already tired. This is crazy. And one of the guys came up and was like, hey, are you all right? Like, are you crying? Oh my gosh, what's wrong? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. And I just,
yep,
it took me a while to realize, like, we don't have to be like that. And if I could go back and tell myself, and really anybody in fire, like, one piece of advice, it would be like, we're all human. And it is okay to have those days. Don't necessarily dwell on them. You want
yeah,
to, keep progressing, but like, that's all right. So, yeah.
right, yeah. That's huge. I think that we're moving in the right direction. I really do. Like your Instagram and Anchor Point, and there's a lot of people out there pushing that positive message that it's okay to have a bad day. No more of this put up, shut up culture. Like just, do the best job that you can and then seek help if you need, like whatever type of help works for you, and then get back to having a good day. And I love that. When I started, I'm sure like you were talking about too, like when I started, it was a little bit like that. You know, there were some changes coming, but it was still kind of like, okay, like you're hired to fight fire, and that's what we're gonna do here, and that's it, you know. And now, you know, we're having these conversations about mental health. We're looking at our firefighters at this whole person and his wife and his kid or his girlfriend, or, you know, as this whole person, and this is who I have to fight fire. And like, is my person doing all right? Are they having a good day? What do they need? Do they need a day off? um, Things like that is like getting talked about way more, and I
Right.
love to see that, you know. Yeah, yeah,
I think
so that's
too, I
huge.
mean, having a spouse who is supportive, like that's a huge thing. Like I've heard that from a lot of people. Um, and it's weird because I think about like corporate America where, people are like, yep, I get up and I go to work and I do my 9 to 5, blah blah blah. And like those people are already stressed out with their job, let alone put somebody in fire where it's not your 9 to 5. You are gone for 14, 21 days at a time. Um, you could get seriously injured at work, all those things, and then tie in the spouse and the kids and finances and family members and obligations. Like it's a lot. So it is really cool to see different people voicing like, hey, we should approach this like in a different way. People need to have
Right.
more of a balance and more understanding.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. The flip side to that, though, is my supportive spouse, my wife, will always remind me, like, you need to
Mm-hmm.
keep talking about this, babe. Like, you guys, as firefighters, see the most messed up stuff out there that no one else sees. But you guys also have this culture of, like, don't talk about it, tough it out, like, everything's fine. We're going to be fine. When you guys see, like, crazy stuff that, like, you know, probably other than like the military and other firefighters and whatnot, stuff that
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't see on an average day to day, right? And we don't talk about it, and you know we should. And I'm just glad that we're starting to move that way, and I want to just keep that train rolling and keep
Mm-hmm.
talking about the stuff that we see, you know. So, um, like one good example, I guess, was, so I was on the Moose Fire this summer, where unfortunately those two pilots lost their lives. And that was really hard. And I remember when it all unfolded. So my engine was assigned to night shift. So we, you know, sleeping during the day and showing up to shift. Well, I don't remember what time it was, but, you know, like late afternoon, we're kind of showing up to the staging area there in Salmon. And like our radio was kind of turned down low, and I was getting the truck ready to go for the shift there, and we're hanging out. And I kind of turned the radio up, and it was Idaho City, and I feel terrible for forgetting the other shot crew's name. Um, but those two shot crews were running the 9 line. I know,
I
help me
don't
out
remember
here. I know I feel
either, but
terrible, and I
yeah.
worked with these guys. I think it was I think it was Alta, but I don't put me on the spot there. But huge respect to these two crews running the 9 line. And I turn the radio up, and it's a 9 line. And, you know, all of us night shift guys are staging there, and they're doing the 9 line for the crash. And we're just like, you're just listening to it all unfold right there. And those guys are putting killer work. It's probably the best 9 line I've ever heard. So huge shout out to those guys. It was just like training, and but it there was nothing that they could really do. It didn't work out, and then you know, the team did great. They brought in counselors. It was constantly in our IAP to talk to somebody, whether it was your crew or their counselors there. They took care of those two shot crews, but that helicopter stayed in the river
I
for
heard that.
a very long
Yeah.
time. And right, yes. So, and I was working on the part of the fire where we drove in past that helicopter and we drove out past that helicopter. And so it was a lot for my guys. And I think that everyone processed it differently. You know, like people wanted to talk about the 9 line just the next day, like not critique it, but like, all right, let's break it down. Like what else could they have done? Or like some guys just got really quiet, didn't want to talk about it. Some guys were like super interested in fact finding, like
Mhm.
snoop around the fire, trying to talk to other crews and see like what was going on. You know, everyone has their own way of dealing with
Mhm.
that grief and that pain, right? But I think that that all stuck with everybody on that moose fire who drove past
Sure.
that Chinook. Um, that stuck with everybody, and that's not something that my buddy working remotely is going to see at his 9 to 5, his
Right.
desk job. And but then we put that stigma on ourselves, right? To like not talk about stuff and just show up to work, show up on the next shift, go on the next role. But like, no, we should pause and talk about it. Like that was hard to see, and it's okay to say
Right.
that it was hard to
Right.
see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So, well,
yeah.
that kind of brings two things, but the first, you know, as like a supervisor in that position, assuming you were a supervisor at that point, how I don't know, what is that like when you're kind of in I don't know what the right word is, but like, you know, when you have people underneath you, like how do you handle that as a supervisor? Because I'm sure, you know, you are going through that, you're trying to process, you have your own thoughts and feelings, but then being in that leadership position, you have people who are looking to you. How do you handle that?
Yeah, that's it's really hard. This is not my first brush with death. I've lost a few friends, so it's kind of a familiar. It's terrible to say, but it's a
Mhm.
familiar concept, right? So I'm like, okay, it's a familiar concept. I'm kind of putting on a good leadership face and focusing with my guys. We had a super good AAR that night, just kind of like giving them what I knew from the team. We talked about what we heard, just talked about everyone's feelings, made sure everyone's doing all right, and if they needed any accommodations, that they knew where to find them, whether it was talking to each other or me or the team psychiatrist or whatever they wanted to do, right? Making sure that was super clear. And then just kind of like continue to check in with them over like the next few days, you know, like, hey, still doing all right, bro. All right, you're good. Okay. Like kind of just underlying easy stuff. But that was really hard. That was a very tough moment for me as a supervisor. And then for me, kind of like trying to at least talk those feelings over with my wife or my parents or some like old friends of mine, you know, or then like going to some of these group meetings and stuff when I get back, talking to other firefighters and like taking care of my emotions and feelings too, by
Right.
trying to be there for my guys. Yeah,
Well, yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
it's a tough one.
I remember when that incident kind of came over the news, or you know, we got ear of it back at my center. That was hard, just knowing like there were ties to somebody from Alaska, let alone actually being there, and that's something that has, I mean, that's still stuck with me. I'm sure, you know, for a lot of people, like those instances, those accidents, those aren't things that we can just brush off, but let alone like actually being there to experience it, like that's a whole other level.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But one thing that you are jogging my memory of is that what I did, what I took away, and I totally stole this from Anchor Point, and Anchor Point stole this from the military, somebody else, but I used that stoplight system, that red, yellow, green, for mental health. I don't know if you're part of it or not, but it's just like that. I guess they use it in hell attack and whatnot. Like green, like you're good to go, you're having a good day, you're on top of it, you know, you're feeling rested. Yellow, maybe you didn't sleep good, maybe you and your partner had like a fight or something like that. You know, red, like you're not doing good, like you just broke up or something's going on in your personal life, your dog died. So like I had that sit down when I was giving my guys, you know, the expectation for the engine and the agency and all that good stuff. At the end, I'm like, here's my thing. Here's my red, yellow, green. Like, let me know how you're doing mental health wise or even physically. And just call it like no questions asked, or we can talk about it as much as you want. Just you can give a color. You can be like, yep, I'm red. That's it. Or I'm red. My dog died. And they're like, okay, sounds good. And that worked out super good with my guys. And They all took it really well, and they only used it twice this summer, but I'm very proud of the gentleman who used it um, those times. And so it's a good system. And even though it only happened
Good.
twice, it worked flawlessly. And it just made those shifts so much easier, right? Being like, I'm red. Like, all right, buddy, I got you. Here's your assignment. Like, I need you on the pump, and then we'll get you out of here, and
Right.
you'll handle your business. And like, made things so much easier for me as a supervisor. I'm so proud of those gentlemen for
Yeah.
having the courage to do that. So not my idea, but I recommend it to any supervisor out there going forward, because that's where the wildland culture is going, right? And it's super easy.
That's
And
very cool.
yeah, so yeah, it worked
So we
out
did have a
good.
comment. Look at the Purple Ribbon campaign through the Forest Service. So I'm not familiar with that myself. I don't know if you are. Um,
Check that out. I'm
I
not.
was gonna
I'll
say
do
if
that
somebody
real quick.
somebody wants to type it
But
in the chat, 'cause I got just my phone up right now. Um, no, that's really cool. And I think regardless, where something came from initially or how it comes about, like I think it's
oh, guide
just
for
important to be able to implement those tools, point blank.
a purple ribbon campaign, a guide for firefighters and their families.
Okay.
I have seen that.
Okay.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a great. It goes over what the job entails, what family members can expect, what firefighters can do to keep their health up, what they're going through, and then to keep their family members in the loop. This is a great
I
document. Yeah,
think
thank you
that actually
for putting that in there.
sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure they handed that out. Right.
I'm
Yep.
sure you've
Yeah.
seen it. Yeah, yeah, very cool. So that's something I did like as a supervisor to try and like get my guys ready. I mean, I also gave them a list, be like, look, I'm a mental health friendly guy, so I'm gonna share with you like what's gonna go on in my life. My dog's sick, something's going on. I'm having a hard day. I'm gonna try and tell you guys without letting you fully into my life and know everything that's going on, but I'm trying to let you guys know what's going on, and you guys can do the same with me. And we do yoga, and I love doing yoga with firefighters because they
Yep.
all are like, I'm a man. I'm not gonna do yoga. Like I don't need to. And I'm like, okay. And every time my response is the same. I said, that's great. You're the most badass man ever. If you can make it through this whole workout without like feeling a burn or like dropping any sweat, we'll never do yoga again. And they're like, all right, yeah, no problem. And then like 20 minutes in, we're like in like Warrior 2 or whatever, and they're like, my back
Yep.
hurts. Doing it again, doing it next week. And they all love it, and no one wants to admit it, but they all love it. They're like, oh, the corpse pose is pretty fun, just to like take a nap and think about stuff. And I'm like, I know that you're joking, but you laid down, you closed your eyes. Maybe you didn't set your intentions for the day, but like
Mhm.
you took a mental break, and like that's what's important to me
Yep.
as a supervisor. So it's like you can joke about it all you want, but we're gonna do it corpse pose
Yeah.
again next week. And so yeah, I think that all that stuff is
I'm
important,
I'm a
you know.
huge fan of
So
yoga. I had a friend that got me into it probably like sophomore year in college, and then I did a couple winters in Arizona,
yeah,
and I did hot yoga for like every day during the winter. Kicked my butt, but I got in decent
yeah,
shape at the time, and it's
yeah,
it's so good for your body, but
yeah,
also just your mental state when you can have that like 5 minutes where you just lay there and you're like, okay, like, without
right.
expectations or anything, set the intention, just soak it in, do what you need. Like that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I love doing firefighter or like giving like the 19, 21-year-old firefighter the yoga task, and we'll
Mhm.
do it on Fridays. Like we'll work out all week and like work out hard and hike and run. And I'm like, yeah, Fridays are yoga day, and just watching them secretly fall in
Very
love with it, you know.
cool.
So yeah, it's a good time. So I'm just glad that that's where we're going, right? Is moving forward, being able to
Mhm.
talk about these things. That's super
Cool.
important to me, you know. So yeah, yeah, yeah. I think. one other story.
I
Sorry,
was
did you
just,
have
nope, go
something?
ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay.
Mm.
No, I don't want to interrupt you at all. Um, One other thing that was super hard for me, and I'm still working on kind of sharing this story. I think I've really only told it to like a few people, so I'm gonna do it right now and be a good example about talking about things. So I had a really hard time a few summers ago. Actually, that picture, that selfie of me, was actually like one of the worst or like hardest like assignments of
Mm.
my life, for me inside. But like outside, everything looks great. There's a bunch of cool pictures of me up at the lookout spot. So I was the we were my district had three type 3 fires, which was super fun, but this one was particularly stressful. And so I was running my engine, and I only had like a few guys. I had like two guys assigned to me, and it was like an all agency fire, and that was good. And so I was working on that fire for a few days with my guys, and then they needed a more experienced lookout because someone had just demobbed. And so it kind of sort of fell to me like I was kind of the next like experienced guy. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this for a few days or whatever's needed or for the shift. And so I got my guys tied in with like another engine boss I knew well. I knew all these guys. So like
Mhm.
my guys are taken care of, right? But still kind of like stressful as like a newer engine boss, like leaving my guys and going up the hill. But so that's kind of squared away, we'll say. And then I go up the hill, and I'm the lookout for this fire, but I'm lookout for Division Alpha, but I can really see most of the fire, and there's like only three divisions, so any kind of questions and stuff is like getting run through me, which is fine. But so it felt like a little more pressure there, answering different questions about the fire and what's going on, doing weather and all that good stuff. And no crews really in any danger, like where they're working. So mostly just weather and answering questions for IC. And then just a hard time. I think it was like September or something like that. So it's like such a hard time getting resources. Like what's there is there, and you're going to be there for 2 weeks, and that's the best you can
Yep,
get,
on the
right? You know
ordering
how it
end,
goes.
I know exactly how that goes. Dispatches, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like bring a bunch of stuff, and it's just not getting filled, and
You got
so
what
it's
you
just like, okay,
got.
Sebastian, we need you to keep being the lookout. Like, all right, man. So, and this fire is ramping up, and so eventually, I am coordinating. When air attack isn't around, I am coordinating two Type 1 ships, one Type 3 ship, and two scoopers, and weather observations, letting the IC know what's going on. I'm doing this for the team. And it's like it's an air attacks, there, but you know how long air
Mhm.
attacks don't last all day. They got to take breaks and stuff like that. And then this is also right September where there's a bunch of other fires going on. So air attack takes off for like an hour at a time to go check on the other fire that's in their radius. And so I'm kind of sort of coordinating this more aircraft than I would like, you could say. But it's still a fun time, like working with scoopers and working with Type 1 ships. It's amazing. It's exhilarating. And so there's that. So my guys, the air show, and then they're coordinating putting in a very important strategic part of Dozier Line here, and I got the best eyes on it. And the guys that are going in pushing this line is our one of our foresters, who like I know very well, good friend. The guy's taught me a lot, and he's leading this charge, right? And so, 2 different days, and he's gonna try and go in and put in this line. And the first day he's going in, and the fire's kind of just making a run up at him. So I have to make the decision to pull the trigger and tell him to get out of there and head back down. No big deal, makes it out in time, everything's fine. Um, Same day, second plan, still coordinating the scoopers and the three helicopters and trying to see how my guys are doing and spend some weather, and then get my forester friend in there so he can keep putting in some more dozer line. And same thing, he's going in. He made it in a little further the second time, but just fire. I see the fires coming, and I'm like, you gotta go, man. You gotta go. And he's like, no, it can work. It can work. Like I think there was a kind of a jump of green. It was like black to green to black, and I'm like, no, you gotta pull out. And he's like, all right, I trust you. And so then they're making it out, and it wasn't really nothing hot on their heels, nothing crazy. Like, this is all textbook stuff. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not making it sound crazy, but this is all textbook lookout stuff, textbook engine boss stuff, textbook slinging weather. But just all that pressure stacked up on me so intensely, and I just wasn't. I didn't know it, and I wasn't handling it well. And so I sometimes I talk in my sleep, and so my wife is like, "Babe, you're talking about your guys, or you're talking about like pulling people out like at night." And I'm like, "Ah, whatever, babe. Like, I'm always rambling in my sleep. Like, you're always telling me about asking you to make waffles and some, random stuff." I'm like, "Whatever, babe. Like, you don't know." Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "You don't know. I say random stuff. Like, I can't be held accountable for like what I say." Um, and she's like, "No, babe. Like, I'm serious. Like, I think you're having a hard time. Talk to your group again, or like talk to your friends." And I'm like, "No, no. Like, you're fine. Um, like, everything's okay." And I remember one night I went to bed, and then I woke up. I was running out my back door, and I remember I woke up when I turned the door, and like the cold September air just like hit my face, and I remember I was mid sentence talking about my guys, and I was like, "Oh, fuck. Like, I am not okay." And like, it's even hard to kind of tell the story now, and it's silly. Like, it's all normal parts of the job, but I remember I was like, "Fuck, my wife is right. Like, I'm not okay. This is
Yeah.
really stressing me out. Like, I'm not good." Um, and that was huge. Being like, okay, I remember I went in. I was like, "Yeah, I can't be lookout anymore. Like, I need some time off." Like, it was like 4 or 5 days of doing that. I was like, "I need to get reassigned. I don't care if I have to pull my engine to like another fire or whatever. Like, I have to get off of this." I'm like, "Okay, don't worry. Like, the team is actually here. Orders are actually coming in. Like, this is your last day as lookout." I'm like, "Okay, good." And then like when I demobbed from that fire, I like got on the group and chatted with everybody, and like had to share that story. And I talked about it a little bit with some of my guys this summer too, and it's been doing it right now. It feels better every time to like tell the story and admit that it was hard. And even though that's all just average regular Joe things, it doesn't matter. It's good to say like it was a hard time, and it was good to talk to people about it. It's good talking with you about it, and just breaking down that stigma and taking care of myself instead of just like ignoring my life and being like, "It's fine," and all that. It's much better
Oh,
to talk
yeah.
about it, right? And so that's what we're here
Yeah.
doing. So
And I think
yeah,
it's important to
yeah,
realize too, like, for yourself in that situation, you had those things that were stacked against you, quote unquote. And you in that situation, you felt one way about it. Either consciously or subconsciously, like you had ways that you were feeling. If it was somebody else, that could have been for them 10 times worse or 10 times easier. You never know. And so it's also important, like, if you're a supervisor or it's your coworker, subordinate, whoever, whatever, like just because you see a situation as, oh, that's easy, you can handle it, or oh, that's super difficult, like we all handle those experiences differently. And I think that's also important in talking about all of this mental health stuff, is also realizing, like my perspective, this is my situation, this is how I feel about it, versus you and your situation, or how you feel about mine, or I feel about yours, or Tom or Mary or whatever. We're all different, we all handle things different, and so that's another big part of it too.
right. Yeah, that's huge. Exactly. Like, that's where, you see a fire, and five different ICs see five different ways to do things. Everyone sees the fire world differently. And like I said, like, there's nothing crazy going on in this story, and there's nothing that I haven't done since then. Talking to aircraft, being the lookout, nothing crazy, but it's just that day, that year, that fire, it just stacked up hard for me. I don't know what it was, but yeah. And I'm happy to I'm happy that I talk about it and get it off my chest and like work through it instead of just like, I mean, who knows? I don't know how long it would have gone on, if we're being just holding that in. And like, so I just think it's great. So like, whenever anyone wants to come to me and share like a hard fire story or anything like that, I love it. And I'm all ears. And I'm like, yeah, that actually sounds really hard. Or like, I can understand where you're coming, like exactly like you're saying, like I can understand where you're coming from. Like on that day, that fire, that sounds rough. That
Yeah,
sounds like your worst nightmare. So yeah, it's interesting
100%.
how everyone views things
Yeah.
differently. But yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's good to
I'm
talk
debating
about stuff like that.
whether or not I have a story that I'm like, do I go down that rabbit hole? All
You should
right,
definitely go down that
so
rabbit hole.
I can't remember how far it was into that season when I was on the engine. Um, I had one hell of a time, so like I was kind of kind of outside my normal scope. Like I wasn't ever like a super fitness, physical oriented person. Like I didn't play a bunch of sports growing up. Um, I would exercise and stuff, but it was kind of like at my own pace. And being on an engine in this particular station in Region 5, like they're very, hey, keep going. Like we're going on a PT hike and you're thrown up, it doesn't matter. You keep going. It's 100 degrees, who cares? So what? And so I was like going through that,
Yeah.
going through like I kid you not, I had blisters on the back of my ankles like this big from trying to break in these boots. Um, Homesick, not used to the schedule, it was very different than dispatch. And I hit the point where every day I was like, this isn't fun. This is miserable. This is so difficult. And I I let it keep building up and I didn't express or voice it or talk about it in the healthiest ways, if at all. And I remember at some point, probably at least halfway through the season, my fiance and I both had a day off together at the same time. So we were like, hey, let's go grab brunch. So we go to this place in town, and the waitress came by. She took our order, and I was like, all right, I want whatever kind of omelet. Cool. All right. So we're sitting there, and finally she brings the food out, and I look down, and I'm like, okay, well, this isn't what I ordered. Like, I ordered an omelet that had bacon, and this is like vegetarian, which isn't a big deal, right? Like, I like vegetables. It's an omelet. Eat the food. So she came back around and I was like, hey, just kind of curious. Like, I don't know if I got somebody else's order, but this isn't what I ordered. And she goes, oh no, that's your omelet. You ordered that. And I was just sitting there going, no, I didn't order this omelet. Like, I wanted bacon. I wouldn't have ordered a vegetarian, but I don't want to argue with this lady. Like, okay. So she leaves and I'm just staring at it. All of a sudden, it was the weirdest thing. It was like I felt it almost in my stomach, and it just like I felt like I flushed all the way to the top of my head, and I started tearing up. And my fiance is looking at me like, "Okay, like what the heck is going on?" And I just said, "I gotta go to the bathroom." And I took off. And I ran to the bathroom and I started hyperventilating by myself in this bathroom. And I'm like, okay, what the heck is going on? Like, it's an omelet. I can eat it. It's fine. Bacon's not a big deal. It is, but it's not really. And it was the craziest thing. And I couldn't really figure out logically, like,
Yeah.
why am I so upset over this? So I calmed down eventually, went back.
Yeah.
I think I ate the omelet, whatever, we left. And the whole time, my poor fiance is just sitting there, like, is this something I did? Like, what's going on? Do you need anything? Can I help you? And I could not put into words like what was going on, why I was upset, what was eating at me. And it was the craziest thing. And it, like, I couldn't pinpoint for the longest time what it was. And then later on, I ended up meeting this dispatcher who's probably in her 70s. Super cool lady. She's been in fire forever, traveled the world, done a lot of stuff. Um, she's a little, I hate to say hippy dippy because I don't like using that phrase. It sounds negative, but she's a little more flowy. Right.
I think the polite term is
Like
out
a little
there
more
now.
flowy than I am, I guess, which is cool. Like she's fantastic. But I was telling her this story and she's like, well, think about it. If you're in this situation at work where you're already stressed out, you feel like you're outside of your element, maybe you don't feel like you're being heard or you're just struggling. And then you're on your day off, you go out to breakfast, you think you're going to have a nice, a nice time, and you don't get what you ordered. So all of a sudden, you're like in a relaxed environment, hoping for something, and it's not what you get. So like, strike one right there. Then you ask the waitress, "Hey, is this right? Because I don't think I ordered it." And she says, "No, that's what you ordered." So she's like reaffirming, like, "No, you're wrong. You're not getting what you want." Strike number two. You eat the omelet, you sit there, you let it boil up. Like, there's just so many things that keep kind of adding. And she's sitting there telling me this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, oh, what is happening? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so interesting to me that all of those things compound to such a level, but we don't realize what's going on. Hi.
yeah,
Speaking of my fiance, um, yeah, but it just goes to show, like, even when we don't think things are bothering us, subconsciously that can still be building up. And so looking back, it's like talking would probably be a good thing. Opening up, sharing the struggles,
yeah,
because then maybe next time I won't freak out over an omelet.
yep, yep, yeah, yep. That is exactly how it goes. Yes, my wife has a
Is
good
that
point there. Um, yeah, that is,
okay? Just
yeah, that's my wife, and that's exactly how it goes, right? Is like this is what you signed up for. You're gonna eat this omelet, and you're gonna fight fire, and you're gonna do
yep.
it the R5 way, and that's it. And but that doesn't have to be it, you know? Like that's not where we're going anymore. And yeah, that's that's tough. I would definitely feel the exact same
It's
way.
just
That's
it's
yeah, that's
silly
awful.
thinking about it, but it's even more silly to be like, okay, how many of us go through this? Let's change that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's change this narrative, you know. And it's even and so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here. I know we're slowing down on time, but it's the same thing for
Mhm.
the off season, right? Same principles, right? We need to take our firefighting skills and make a good plan for the off season because the off season is always kind of hard for me too. Like I mentioned, like I'd either be going back to school or then sometimes I'd just be unemployed, and like that's always hard. Like your dinners are at X time, and you either you're off shift and you're coming home to whatever you're coming home to. Like for me, I'd go home to my wife, have dinner, relax, or you're on a fire. You're gonna get your paper bag dinner at 7 or whatever, and like everything's all scheduled out. And then you're like going home, and you're like, I have all this free time, and I have some money, and I'm not happy. Like what? Let's so like I'll always try to make a schedule or a plan or something for the off season. Like I'm trying to get back into working out now, and that's been great. And it's just like you got to have a schedule, you got to do something because like those same challenges I feel hit
Mhm.
us in the off season, right? Like I'm sure you feel
100%.
the same way, you know? Yeah. So I love your posts and everybody's posts. So I try and text my guys or old friends at least once a month, whether I'm on assignment or not. I'll try and get
Mhm.
out one text to somebody is like my goal, you know. If I'm feeling really good, I'll try and like check in with some people like every 2 weeks or so. And I love your guys' posts reminding me to do it because like I will forget. You will go on a fire, you will forget, but that's so healing in its own way. Just to just shoot a text, see how you're doing, talk about like on the moose fire. I'm like I'm stuck on freaking night shift. This sucks. And like, but just saying that and talking to my friends like helps. I'm like, yeah, yeah, feeling like a little better. So it's like it's so important to reach out in the off season, have a plan in the off. It's important to reach out. Take that back. It's important to reach out all the time,
Right.
right? Always stay connected, but especially having
Totally.
that plan for the off season has been
But,
huge. So
um,
yeah, I think that.
so Bridget or is it Bridget? Brigitte? Um, Definitely feeling it this year. So, I mean,
Yeah,
for myself, like I've been struggling with the off season and just talking with a few people, like friends, family, or different people in like couple coaching groups I'm involved with. The big the big couple of things that they've really helped me realize is mindset. Obviously, like that's what a lot of this revolves around. Um, I started recently just sitting down and being like, okay, at the end of the day, here are 3 to 5 things that I'm genuinely thankful for. Like just having a moment of reflection, and it could be I'm thankful that we have a fire stove, like a wood burning stove. I'm thankful that I had a good day. I'm thankful that something made me smile today, and it sounds really, really cheesy. And if I would have told myself that like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I probably would have cussed myself out and been like, that's stupid. I don't need to do that. Like, I'm just angry and I'm upset. But since I've been doing that for the past handful of days, I already feel like my mindset has changed where I'm like, yeah, like I do have a lot to be thankful for. And, there's a lot of good. And then uh,
yeah,
somebody today, what was it?
that's
Something.
huge.
Somebody else was telling me something earlier today about just being in that headspace of like I don't I don't want to do things that I like, or I don't want to do things that make me happy because I don't know. It was something like really, really deep, so I'll probably get it wrong. But I don't know. It had to do with like allow yourself to be happy. Like the things
Right,
that we love in the off season
right,
kind of become work, and it's like I don't want to do that. I don't want to push myself to go do the things, even though you know they're good for you. And it's like we can't allow
right.
ourselves to be happy. We can't allow ourselves to just accept it. And we kind of have to break that barrier and be like, hey, I deserve to be happy in the off season. I deserve love. And if I have that off day, that's okay. Like we said when we started out, like
Right.
it's okay to have an off day, but also like know that it's not forever. It's temporary. Things will get better, you know,
Yeah. Right.
all that good out there stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I same thing here. I should probably count what I'm thankful for more, but like I try and trick my silly little fire brain, and I'm like, the mission is to go on a date with your wife. The mission is clean your house, like just break it down, put it back into those work terms of like, okay, it's the off season, but the mission is I'm gonna work out once a week, and then next week I'm gonna work out twice a week, and just like hit those goals, and like I try and trick myself into like still fire
Yeah.
brain, of like, but yeah, it's hard going into the off season and like adjusting because like you have this whole schedule, and now it's like sit down for Thanksgiving and it's gonna be served in between 6 and 7, and you're like, what do you mean? My meals are served at 6. Like I had a plan, like I had a schedule, and like adjusting can be hard for sure. And so that's why I'll
Mm-hmm.
try and be like, okay, trick myself into thinking like it's still at work, or like use those concepts right from work to like help you
Yeah.
meet those goals. So, but yeah, having a good plan for the off season is important, and that's something I try to stress on my guys, or just like anybody I talk to. Be like, what are you up to this winter? You gonna work? You gonna hang out? You gonna ski? You gonna Xbox? You gonna beat 5 games? Like, just pick a goal, any goal. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like, you can be a couch warrior if that's what you want to do. I spent many months in the winter trying to beat the show or the new Warzone. Like, then that's fine. That's my goal. Is to play as much Warzone as I can and get as many new achievements as I can with my buddies. Like, that's it. So like, I'll always try and be like, yeah, what's your goal or whatever. At least have
Yeah,
one and carry that on.
for sure.
So
Yeah, just, I
yeah,
mean, this last
yeah, that's
comment,
huge.
self-care is very important, even in little segments. I mean, yeah,
Yep.
even if it's just one little thing every day or once a week, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, I'm just glad we're here continuing this conversation. I hope, I mean, this applies to everybody, right? Everyone should be talking about their mental health, especially us firefighters and the hard things that we see. But everybody should too. Like, I encourage all my buddies to reach out and talk about stuff if they ever need to. And disclaimer, I'm here for anybody. If they want to talk whenever, just shoot me a message. Like, I really do believe that you don't have to go sit down in a shrink's office and do the whole "and how does that make you feel today" thing. And that's great, and that works for lots of people. But even just send the text, send go talk to your buddy, say, hey, I'm not feeling good today. I think that's honestly the best medicine, and I wish more people would do that. And I wish I could keep being better about doing that. Is always my challenge to myself.
Yeah. So everybody watching, go text your
Yeah.
buddies.
Yes, exactly. Text all your buddies.
Cool.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah. I feel like that's a good stopping point, and we can get people back to
yeah,
their Friday night. But yeah, like, I'm just really glad that we got to sit down and chat and push that good mental health message and just keep
yeah,
that train
yeah,
rolling.
yeah. And thank you guys all for watching.
Uh,
I I don't know, it's weird. Like I never really intended on doing this. Like I never imagined I would be doing this, but it's actually super cool. I really enjoy just being able to talk with people and get communication going. Technology is kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, but it's good for things like this. So happy to do it. Happy for everybody
it
that
is.
hopped on, and yeah, let's go make it a good rest of the Friday night and a good weekend. And text your buddies, or give them a phone call, or stop in and see them.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Text your friends. Keep reaching out. Love it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you again so much for
yeah.
having
I'm
me on
glad.
here.
I'm
This was
glad it worked
awesome.
out. This was perfect. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right,
Awesome.
guys.
Oh yeah.
Everybody have a good Friday
All
night,
right.
and I guess we'll see who's up next. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good
All
night.
right. Good night. Thanks again.
Bye.
See ya.